Hello there, it's Tania Gabrielle, Wealth Astrologist. Welcome to Star Codes, the podcast where we look at an upcoming event in the stars and numbers, the astrology and numerology, in this case, the new moon in Scorpio on 11/1, November 1st. There's so much to share. This is going to be a really important podcast episode because of all the topics that are uncovered, literally, by Scorpio, by the new moon, by the numerology code. So let's start off first with the date, with the numerology. 11/1 in 2024 adds up to an 11 universal date. So we're in the 11th month, we're in the first day, and the whole date adds up to 11 again. And 11 is the number of being so present that you have no thought for tomorrow and no focus on the past whatsoever. It is the number of presence, and in presence is when you receive intuition. These are the two antennae of the ones, right? It's like you're receiving the downloads from the divine. So not only that, but we have in November itself, the whole month in numerology is a 10 universal month, which signifies new beginnings, of course. And so there is a major change in the wind. If you only look at the numerology, you know, oh my gosh, the reset button is really getting started now. Well, there's more, because Mars with Pluto, they are the co-rulers of this new moon. Mars is the original ruler of Scorpio, the ancient one. Pluto, the modern ruler. Mars also rules Aries. We just had the Aries full moon, which was so powerful and really introduced us to the Mars-Pluto opposition for the first time. Mars and Aries define new beginnings because Aries is the first sign. So we have this new beginnings, forward momentum energy from Mars, and Mars is opposite to Pluto, the other co-ruler of Scorpio. And Pluto is almost the opposite of Mars in many ways because it goes underneath. It's not visible. It's the invisible, almost like the energy of the unseen. Pluto is about secrets and uncovering them. So in a sense, not really spy energy, but bringing to light that which was not seen, making it conscious. And when there's an opposition to Mars, Mars wants to go with it. Mars wants to get it out there, even in an aggressive way, which is not recommended. We want to be assertive. There's a big difference when as need be, right? So that's actually one of the big shifts in how we present our very passionate viewpoints is through being more in a place of confidence that is assertive versus aggressive domination, overpowering energy. And that will be a big topic of this opposition because Pluto also rules power. And you look at the P word, and I've discussed that in previous Star Codes podcasts, another P word, but the letter P is really connected to power. And Pluto is the power planet, and it looks at either power over others, disempowerment, or empowerment, feeling empowered from within. So this period of Mars coming in and like poking the bear really, and Pluto saying, okay, you know, it's time, right? Remember that Pluto is also changing signs at this very time. It's at the very last moments of Capricorn and will be moving into Aquarius for 20 years on November 19th while the sun is in Scorpio. This is the Scorpio new moon. Pluto rules Scorpio. So there is such a big theme here of needing to get to the core matter of things. And that means, and Pluto is explaining this, that means with this code of double 11s, the first, a 10 universal month, those are 6 ones. 11, that's 4 ones. The first is the 5th one. And then the 6th number 1 is that November is a 10 universal month, which reduces to 1. So 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, you know, like all this energy of, you know, it's very Mars energy. It's like, okay, we need to let go. We need to really just say that the past is history and we need to rebuild or build a new future. And that future is not based on old paradigms. And so Pluto is being tasked by Mars, like the stinger from Scorpio, and Mars is coming to Pluto and saying, okay, let's uncover. And Pluto's saying, there's a lot to uncover. When we uncover the unconscious, there's many layers. When we uncover secrets, we have to move step by step, because when something has been withheld for a long time, maybe over lifetimes, there's a lot to digest. So it requires some research too, and a lot of willingness to be open. And if there's any open energy that's defining that we need to be in the present moment and be open, it's the gateway of the 11. So I'm combining here, in a very mellifluous way, the numerology and astrology, because they do work together. They are sister divination arts, and they never were meant to be separated, like so much has been in history. It's been separated and isolated from each other in order for us to not see the overall wisdom. And so we must look always at degree numbers, at dates for any astrology event, and also any sequences that are created like they are in droves for this new moon. Now there's another number I want to introduce now that's very important, and that's the number 9, because the sun and moon will be at 9 degrees. And what is the number 9? It's the final single digit from 1 through 9. Whereas 1 is the first, beginnings, 9 represents endings and culminations. So we are pivoting. When 9 and 1 show up, it means in the end is the beginning, and in the beginning is the end. And what else can that insinuate but letting go of the past and embracing something brand new? But it's the letting go part that is the awakening. The brand new will unfold. We will recognize it intuitively. We will grasp it with our divine intelligence, with our intuition, and also with our practicality. We'll see this is right. This makes sense. This feels good. But in order to get there, we have to also uncover the layers and empower ourselves. And 9, being the final single digit, is the number of wisdom. It has all the wisdom of 1 through 8 within that big head at the top. And notice how the big head at the top of the 9 is very similar to the big head at the top of the letter P. In fact, they are reverse of each other. So that tells you something else about the empowerment through frequency. 9 will always check whether you're coming from a self-centered egoic place, meaning serve myself only at the expense of others, power over others, or whether you are taking the wisdom of 1 through 8 and coming from a compassionate, heart-centered place, because the ultimate expression of number 9 is unconditional love, which is talked about a lot, but very difficult to achieve unless you are only in the present moment, without judgment, without identifying with one side or the other. It takes a lot to be in that unconditional place where you listen, and you do so in a way that is filled with curiosity and openness and feeling liberated, wanting to support, wanting to help, but not at the expense of the values of love and wisdom and truth. So it takes a lot. And what it takes is being present. That's the only way it works, because our intuition will help us navigate any situation, any conversation, right? Any decision, any discovery we make. Our intuition will guide us. And our intuition is so activated in this new moon in Scorpio. In fact, Scorpio, as far as I'm concerned, Scorpio is the most intuitive part of the zodiac. It governs the 8th house, which is the most misunderstood house. We have 12 houses, like we have 12 signs, and each of the signs governs a house in your natal chart. And the 8th house is seen as the house of sexuality, of death, and of partners, money, relationships, or money owed from other entities to you, or given to you from other entities. So, those are all taboo subjects. If you want to go to any kind of social event and you're just mingling with people you haven't met and being introduced to, the last three subjects you're going to bring up are sex, death, and money. Okay? So it's the most misunderstood house. The other 12 houses, or 11 houses, I should say, are more easy to understand in terms of the topics in our life that they govern. And again, based on your birth chart, you have planets in certain houses, you have connections by sign and by rulership to certain topics that these houses and signs govern. So, going back to Scorpio, the 8th house is also connected to the number 8. Now, 8 is also a misunderstood number. It's the only number that we can draw with our pen without lifting it repeatedly. If you draw any number repeatedly, you have to lift the pen. So it literally represents eternal life, which is a concept that's hard to wrap our head around if we're, living a life and know that we will eventually die. So it is an out-of-the-box way of looking at life. So death is little deaths, though it can mean that. But death is meant as the death of the ego, the death of everything that is no longer valid, which is the past. It also is dying to any kind of attachment to something. And that's really the most difficult in many ways. Though we do have a fear of death, our identification with things gives us a false sense of security that we are taken care of. And when we identify, we will always then notice who is not identifying with what we have chosen as our way of being, as our belief system. So these are all being stripped now with this opposition of Mars opposite Pluto. And that's tough because our security blanket is what we identify with. We can identify with anything, a belief, a degree we have, a school we attended, a party that we affiliate with, right? A cultural identification, a country's identification, right? It could be anything. If we can just embrace that everybody has a unique set of ways that they feel comfortable with, it's really a comfort zone, and that we don't need to identify and separate ourselves by each identification from the other. Again, these are big concepts that Pluto is bringing up, multi-layered, right? If we can do that, if we cannot do all this separation from each other, like happened with the divination arts and so many other things. I mean, Carl Jung was an astrologer, but you will never find in academia anything about Carl Jung that is related to astrology. So it was separated for a reason, in order to have power over how you think. And that's an identification that happened. That's just one small example of how things are separated. Now, if we can bring the whole sense of who each of us is together, it is truly, we are inspired in this moment to do the right thing. And the right thing is not, again, something that we judge. It just feels good. It feels harmonious. And this new moon will hold us up to that task, because the opposition of Pluto and Mars is very, very intense. And if we are not in that calm, listening, intuitive state that Scorpio is so amazing at, the highest expression of Scorpio is true leadership through inspired intuition. If we are not in that place, we're going to become very emotional, because Pluto and Mars, this is a water sign, Scorpio. Water rules our feelings, and it's very sensitive, and we will then be triggered, right? If somebody says something we don't agree with or expresses an opinion that makes us cringe, it will throw us off, and we will want to use a stinger in a way that is then aggressive, which is the shadow side of Mars, right? To literally go in. And then Pluto, then the shadow side is to destroy, because Pluto governs the underworld as well. It governs everything that's unseen. So that would be what's beneath the lotus, right? That's what Pluto governs, the unseen. So Pluto then will come in and literally disempower, overpower, if we go that way. wanting to be better than, and literally wanting to destroy, get rid of, silence what we don't agree with. Again, identifying with one side at the expense of the others. So one other part of the equation that's so important is that Pluto is at 29 degrees. Mars will be at 29 degrees as well, and is during this new moon, and the exact opposition at 29 degrees, Cancer for Mars, Capricorn for Pluto, is on November 3rd. And then on the 2nd, Mercury is sextile Pluto and trine to Mars. And they're all at 29 degrees. Now 29 reduces to 11. 2 plus 9 equals 11. And there's one more 11 I want to bring up before I go back to that Mercury sextile Pluto. Couple more things, super important. First of all, the new moon takes place at 1:47 p.m. Universal Time. That's 8:47 a.m. Eastern Time, New York, and 5:47 a.m. Pacific Time, LA. 47 minutes is what all these times have in common. 47, 4 plus 7 equals 11. The second thing is that Mercury will be sextile to Pluto and trine to Mars. And Mercury will be at 29 degrees Scorpio. And 29, of course, 29 degrees reduces to 11. Pluto has been at 29 degrees for a few months now, waiting to move into Aquarius. Mars has now reached 29 degrees in Cancer. Now, on the 2nd of November, right after the new moon, we have Mercury at 29 degrees Scorpio, the sign of the new moon. You can see how this is building and building. Mercury governs the news. Mercury governs communication. Mercury is our connection to each other through words, through writing, even body language. Mercury in Scorpio is going to communicate things that may be big, right? Especially because we have the Pluto opposite Mars the next day. It's already oppositional, right? It's just that they move more slowly. They're at 29 degrees already. So this is really huge. These events, these sequential events coming one after the other, starting with the Aries full moon on October 17th, which originally introduced us to this, and this energy, this oppositional Mars-Pluto energy, and then the Scorpio new moon, which is ruled by Mars and Pluto, and then the Mercury sextile Pluto and trine Mars on the 2nd, and then on the 3rd of November, we have the exact opposition of Mars and Pluto. Fortunately, there are also some really lovely transits. For example, Mars is trine to Neptune, which means it's spiritualizing our energy. We're open and receptive to new ideas. And then Venus is opposite Jupiter at the same time. And those are the two benefics. And when the two benefics are opposite each other, it's actually good. It's lovely energy. It's very optimistic. So there are these beautiful openings aside from the 1111 continuous code. There are many openings. And always remember that November is a 10 universal month. 10 is instant manifestation. 10 is new beginnings. 10 is love and light. 10 is made up of 1 and 0, which make up the whole code of the universe, geometrically itself as well, straight line and circle. The computer code is made up of 1s and 0s. So it is the God code. And so that's active as well. And then keep in mind the 9 degree is the culmination, the endings. And we are going to have the same theme that we have in November with all the 1s and the 9 in 2025, because 2025 is a 9 universal year. And in 2025, the rest of the slow moving outer planets will change signs and will be at 0 degrees of new signs, including 2 in Aries, the first sign, doubling up the new energy. So it's the same endings, beginnings, shift energy. And 2025 is the center of our decade, the 2020s, which define the 2000s. So big year coming up, and to help you navigate it, I'm so excited to invite you to my 11th annual Ultimate Yearly Forecast. Just go to 2025forecast.com and watch a short free video about it. But this is going to be streamed live, and I'll have a Q&A at the end. And it's going to cover everything you need to know about 2025 so that you can prepare and navigate and make the most of the year. You're going to be amazed at the secrets being revealed in the 2025 Celestial Code, both for you personally in your Astrology Numerology, which I will cover for the year, and for humanity and Earth. So watch a short video at 2025forecast.com and know that there will be an instant access replay for a year after the live stream. Have an amazing, amazing Scorpio new moon. I wish you all the best, and I will see you next week for our next Star Codes forecast. Lots of love.